Hello everyone again, and good morning. Thank you for joining our webinar this morning. We're going to be continuing in our series on Atlassian Add Ons, and so this morning we're covering add-ons for Confluence specifically. And we will be recording this webinar, and we'll email you a link to that recording over the next few days. The email will also include a link to register for our next webinar. As you have questions, be sure to type those in the questions box of the GoToWebinar control panel. We'll get those queued up, and we will try our best to answer all of them towards the end of this session. On the webinar today from Principio Consulting, we have Principal Consultant Amanda Babb. Amanda is a certified Scrum Master and a Safe Program Consultant, and has worked on some of the largest client projects that Principio Consulting has had the pleasure to complete. So she's literally, too, known all over the world for her Atlassian expertise, and we're excited to have her lead us this morning. We also have a guest presenter this morning, Simon Gatto, who's the Manager of Business Development at Comalatech. So we're excited to have Simon on the webinar with us. And then last, and honestly probably least on this webinar, my name is Evan Perkins. I'm a sales consultant here at Principio Consulting, and I'll be serving as your faithful moderator. A little bit about Principio Consulting. We've been Atlassian expert partners for over 6 years now and are one of 5 platinum enterprise experts in the country. Over 99% of our projects are Atlassian related, and we've helped hundreds of clients across the globe, ranging in size from 20-person companies to Fortune 20 enterprises spanning many different industries. We help our clients with process-centric technology solutions that facilitate traditional business process management, IT service management based on IDLE, and software development lifecycles. In the SDLC space, we're helping clients transition from traditional waterfall to the Agile methodology. So whatever widgets you produce, we help improve the quality and throughput at the lowest cost. We support our clients in all facets of the Atlassian product suite and build methodologies and solutions across the entire product line. Solutions architecting and implementations, licensing, upgrades and maintenance, managed hosting, managed services, integrations, add-on development, and training. And with that, I'll hand things over to Amanda.
Thanks again, Evan, for that fantastic introduction. I appreciate it. Again, my name is Amanda Babb, and I am the Principal Consultant of our Process Architecting and Engineering Client Delivery here at Principio Consulting. I'm also a Certified Scrum Master and Safe Program Consultant. Before we get started, I wanted to announce a recent addition to our Principio Consulting family. The little guy on the left, his name is Howard, and he's working really hard on scaling to be just like his big brother, Leonard. So let's take a look at what we're going to cover today. We hear this all the time, that Confluence is great, but there are additional needs beyond Confluence's out-of-the-box capability that our clients ask for often. Enter the Atlassian Marketplace. It's a fantastic ecosystem that allows folks to tune the Atlassian applications to their specific use cases. We'll take a look at some of our favorite formatting add-ons, such as multi-excerpt, and advanced tables for Confluence. We'll spend some time with questions for Confluence. And if you're familiar with or have ever asked a question on Atlassian Answers, then you're probably already aware of it. We'll spend some time with Simon Gatto from Comalatech, and he's going to discuss Comala Workflows for Confluence. This is a great way to add approvals and publishing for Confluence content. We'll talk about making Confluence work for big initiatives such as a corporate intranet, and we'll talk about ThemePress and how it can help you do those things. And then last but not least, before we entertain questions, we'll review a real-life example of a client implementation that used all of these add-ons together in various ways. Confluence is an extremely powerful ideation engine and collaboration platform. And once adopted, Confluence can change the way the entire organization works together. Communication and coordination that may have once been impossible for your organization becomes extremely simple. However, our clients and their organizations want more. As stated in previous webinars, the misconception is that Atlassian tools are only for software teams. But in reality, they bring a lot of value to teams in any function. Confluence brings teams together in a centralized platform. ideas, documentation, how-tos, reporting, executive summaries, white papers, blogs, product requirements, FAQs, and so many more of these things can live within Confluence. What's more is they can evolve. Items in Confluence are considered living, breathing pages until you decide they aren't. This is Leonard. If you remember Leonard, he's a longtime user of Confluence and has additional needs around formatting tables and perpetuating content in multiple pages. While he's familiar with excerpt include and tables in Confluence, he's stuck in a copy-paste loop. He knows there must be a more efficient and effective way. If you remember Karen, the head of Tech Ops, she and her team spent a lot of time building the knowledge base connected to Jira Service Desk, and she and her team continues to add content every day. The troubleshooting and how-tos, while helpful, have seemed to be replaced by questions in HipChat. Her service desk agents are now spending more time responding to questions in HipChat than assisting their actual customers. She knows there has to be something else she can use in Confluence to help push questions out of HipChat. Alan and his team are in charge of all HR policies, including the employee handbook. His team is also in charge of corporate communications. He's been making changes recently as Rambler is scaling, but is finding copying, moving, and deleting pages and content extremely time-consuming. In addition, he wants the company to use brand standards when creating content. He feels corporate branding lends to Rambler's image with its employees and helps take them pride in Rambler. So if we think back to Brent, the director of IT at Rambler, he's listened to his stakeholders and run the company's needs through their change management project in Jira. He's been approved to find the best solutions and knows he can find them through the Atlassian ecosystem. With a little help from his friendly Atlassian Platinum Enterprise Expert partner, Brent starts looking for solutions on the Atlassian Marketplace. The Atlassian Marketplace is a robust network of Atlassian and third-party add-ons. And with so many to choose from, Brent feels probably much like you may feel when looking at the marketplace. Where might he even begin to fulfill the needs his folks have expressed? And is there any way to make sense of all that Atlassian and third-party vendors offer? Simple filter searches, reviews, and ratings are at the tip of Brent's fingertips. He can enter a generic search term to filter results, or he may choose to filter by product. Since Brent is specifically looking for Confluence add-ons, he is filtered by Confluence and immediately sees the top-selling add-ons. While some of these may fulfill his stakeholder needs, he decides instead to see more. Still overwhelmed, Brent contacts Principio Consulting for some advice. The marketplace offers so many different kinds of solutions for each of those needs, it's hard to pick just a few. But with their experience across multiple industries, as well as their relationship with the folks at Rambler, their friendly neighborhood consultant picks out a few for Brent to try. We here at Principio Consulting love so many add-ons, and in fact, when we were putting together the content for today's webinar, our huddle came up with over 20 of our favorite Confluence add-ons in less than a minute. And with so many to choose from, it took us a long time to pare down the list for Brent to just a few. And so we begin today's in-depth look at just 5. For tables, advanced tables for Confluence, content perpetuation, multi-excerpt, questions for Confluence for FAQs, Comala Workflows for content control and publishing, and last but not least, ThemePress for branding. With the requirements from Brent in our relationship with multiple teams at Rambler, as well as our years of experience, we at Principio Consulting are confident this combination of add-ons on top of Rambler's existing Confluence structure, this will be perfect for their needs. Organizing content in tables can be a very powerful way to convey messages to teams and management. However, native tables in Confluence have limited functionality and styling. Confluence's out-of-the-box functionality with excerpt and excerpt include macros make perpetuating content a breeze, but you only get one block of content per page. So let's take a deeper look at advanced tables for Confluence and multi-excerpt. The newest versions of Confluence have enhanced table capabilities, cutting and pasting rows and columns, creating pivot tables, advanced filtering and charting. All of these are now native to Confluence. But what if you needed to format the table for export, or sum a column, or simply organize our attachments? And that's where advanced tables comes in. Advanced tables provides a series of additional macros to wrap around tables. One of the macros, Table Plus, provides the ability to format tables in a single page or reference tables across multiple pages. Table Plus specifically provides formatting for row numbering and summing data, column types, which allows you to tell the table what kind of columns it's working with, as well as setting table widths in a page to get ready for export. Anybody who's worked with CSS and Confluence knows how tricky that can be, and Table Plus allows you to format tables to fit your pages. Another way to organize attachments is by using the Attachments table macro. It adds another way to visualize and organize attachments on a page. One of the things we love about Confluence is the ability to perpetuate content across multiple pages. You can simply insert an excerpt on a single page and then take the excerpt include macro, and as information changes in the excerpt, so will that content on another page. With multi-excerpt, we can do the same thing, except we can actually take multiple blocks of content per page and perpetuate them either in a single page or across multiple pages across the entire Confluence instance. If we take a look at an example here, the cool factor is that we have a single excerpt up top. We've decided to add a second excerpt here. And what we're doing is we're pulling in content into this second excerpt. Once we get ready to save it, we can then use the multi-excerpt include macro in order to perpetuate this content wherever we'd like to across multiple places in Confluence. This is particularly handy for places that need to perpetuate, say, a standard or a procedure in several pages in several spaces across their entire Confluence instance. One of our most frequently asked questions is folks looking for a better way to handle frequently asked questions. There's a lot of content that can happen outside of Confluence or within email or HipChat or other locations outside of a place where, if the knowledge was shared, folks would be better informed and would lead to better transparency in an organization. Confluence itself has two global templates to help create content around how-tos, as well as things like troubleshooting steps. And with Confluence's powerful persistent search, it becomes very easy to find information in an article. But what if you're in the middle of documentation, or there was a change that wasn't announced, or it simply doesn't warrant an entire article? This is where Questions for Confluence comes in. The user can browse through all of the questions, pick a specific topic, ask questions, answer questions, and there's even some built-in gamification for askers and answerers. The cool part about Questions for Confluence is the fact that because it sits on top of Confluence's powerful search capabilities, anytime you start typing any small piece of text, it'll immediately suggest other questions that you may be looking for. Once you've looked at a question, you can very quickly and easily tell whether or not that question has been answered. And if you still haven't found the answer that you're looking for, you can ask a question that you'd like. When you're asking a question, you can also do things like tag it with various and sundry topics so that folks know if they're looking at a particular topic, whether or not they should be looking under, say, for example, Confluence, Jira, or HR. And at this point, once a question is asked, then anybody with access to the right permissions in that space has the ability to go in and answer that question. Answers are chosen by the group as a whole and can be upvoted to say whether or not that is the best answer, and ultimately the asker is the one that deems the answer worthy. Another request that we here receive at Precipio Consulting on a regular basis is the need for some sort of publishing workflow. Whether it's a series of folks putting together an executive summary, or perhaps a blog that needs to be approved and reviewed before being published, or even a white paper that may need to go through some sort of approval process before it goes live, folks are asking for workflows within Confluence. So again, today we're joined by Simon Gatto. He's from Comalatech, and he's going to talk to us for a few minutes about Comala Workflows.
Thanks, Amanda, and thanks again everyone for joining us today. We really appreciate your time. As Amanda mentioned, my name is Simon Gatto. I'm the Manager of Business Development here at Comalatech, one of the Atlassian ecosystem's add-on vendors. We actually have a number of different add-ons that you'll find in the marketplace, but today, keeping in the Confluence theme, we're going to be having a look at our top-selling add-on, which is Comala Workflows for Confluence. And what Workflows basically allows you to do is add a proper approval mechanism to your Confluence pages, whether that's a simple one-step approval with one or two users involved, or a more complex multi-step approval with possibly different users or even different departments involved to match whatever your document lifecycle happens to be. So we can handle both basic and more complex approvals. So jumping into my Confluence install, I'm just going to walk you through some of the basic features that are available and show you how those work. So I've created a page, a basic approval page with some basic lorem ipsum data, and I'm just going to show you how a basic approval would work. If you check on the right hand side, you'll notice the little workflows button, which I can click on. This is a few options, and in this case, I'm just going to add a simple approval to this page. And the first thing I'm going to point out is as soon as you've added an approval or a workflow to a page, it puts it into what we call a draft state. So a draft state is only visible to your page editors and your space admins, but none of your view-only users would be able to see this page. So essentially we're sort of hiding the page until it's actually gone through the approval or the review process and has been approved or published. So we've applied that approval, but we need to go ahead and assign it to a user. I'm going to go ahead and assign this one to Susan. And now we could have multiple approvers involved. If we wanted to add more than one person, we can do that. But for this case, we're just going to give it to Susan. We can also add a note if we want. Please review. And we're going to assign that to Susan. Now, if we log back into Confluence as our Susan user, we can actually see in the Comala Workflows tasks section, which we've actually created in the Confluence dashboard, she will actually be notified or have it on our list. It'll also show up in her Confluence inbox, so she'll get notification there as well. But from the tasks list, she can easily go into that page, click on the review, see the information, and assuming she's happy with it, she can go ahead and approve that page. She can leave a note here as well if she wants to. So she's going to approve that page. And now once this page has been approved, it turns green, and this is what we consider a published page now. So it's gone from draft to published, and at this point your read-only users would now be able to see this page. So it's been approved, everyone can go in and view it now. So it's been gone through the proper process so that everyone can now view the page. Now, logging back in with my original admin user that created the page, of course I can see here that it's been approved. If I needed to make any changes to the page, I can go in and do that and save it. But of course, now that I've modified this page, it needs to go back to the in progress because it would have to go through the review process again. So it's kicked it back. So we now have another version of this page that's in draft, but we also have the latest approved version as well. So this allows you to work on pages in the background if they have been modified, but you still have your last published version. So you don't have to lock it down from the users. They can still access the published version, but you can continue to work on it in the background until it goes to the approval. Once that page is approved, then of course it becomes the latest published page. But essentially we have two different versions of this that we can work on, our in-progress version and continue to have that published version out there. Now for a more complex workflow, again I've created a document workflow page just as an example. I'm going to go to my workflows page or my icon. I'm going to go ahead and select a page workflow. Now, something that I will just quickly point out, a lot of people will ask, well, can I do this automatically? And the answer, of course, is yes. If you don't want to assign the workflow manually, you can actually do it from the admin section and set up what we call a space workflow. And that workflow will be assigned to the page that's created in that space. Anytime a page is created, it gets assigned automatically, so the user doesn't have to do anything. But in this case, just for example, I'm going to go ahead and pick one of our built-in workflows. Now, workflows does come with a number of built-in workflows that are already there that you can use, or you can modify them or customize and create your own workflows to match your own document lifecycle management process, whatever that happens to be. So if you do need to create your own, you can definitely do that. So I'm just going to go ahead and sign one of our very common, our editor and staff approval workflow. And this is a great example of a multi-step approval. So you can see here that it will go from a draft state to ready for being reviewed. It goes through an initial review until it's eventually published. So this will give you an idea of where the page is sitting. And I can actually, as an admin, I'm going to move this along the workflow states. Normally this would be done by different people, but just to show you what it looks like, once I've accepted it, we can see it's moved into our ready state. It can go through the first approval step, and that would normally be assigned to perhaps a team lead or one of the managers of your group for them to approve. So we can see now that it's gone to reviewed. And finally, it can go to your editor-in-chief in this case, or the person that needs to make that final approval process until it becomes published. So the page has now been published, and again, this is the state that your users will be able to view. And just like our basic approval, if you did make changes to the page, it's going to kick it back to the draft state. So you'll have a last published version, but you'll also have an in-progress version that you can continue to work on until it goes through the approval and review steps again. So again, you've got those two different versions of that page where you can work on it in the background but still have your published version available. Now, one thing that I will point out as well, something that's very important, particularly if you're using workflows for compliancy purposes, possibly you're under FDA or ISO compliance, you need to have a proper activity log of all the pages. So as soon as you've applied a workflow to a page, it's going to have this detailed history of everything that's been done to the page from when it was created, who's reviewed it, who's approved it, if it gets modified as well. So very important, you have that page history activity. And the last thing that I'm just going to point out, more of a dashboard sort of admin feature, we also have our built-in workflow report. And this is really useful for being able to see all of the pages in the space that have a workflow assigned to them and being able to tell very quickly which state they happen to be in, when they were last updated. Perhaps you've got some pages that need some attention because they're in a review state and they need to be published. So the workflow report makes it very easy to find those pages that you might need to give some attention, or you may need to make some changes to. So the workflow report will give you that functionality. Okay, so those are really the top features with workflows, being able to add basic approvals and more complex approvals, just to give you more control over the pages in Confluence, so you can really manage when people actually get to see those pages and make sure they go through a proper approval system or a number of steps until they actually get released to your general public. So it gives you that control that most companies really need when they're managing documents and publishing pages. So with that said, I'm going to turn it back over to you, Amanda. I hope that information was helpful, and I will be back at the end of the session to answer any questions that you guys might have.
While Confluence has so much functionality and, as stated before, is an extremely powerful ideation engine and collaboration platform, sometimes it's difficult to get users to adopt Confluence. While there are a few options for theming and branding, such as setting a favicon or color schemes, Confluence is heavily navigation left, content right. Brikit's theme press for Confluence takes Confluence to a robust web experience. Fonts, images, colors, overall branding can all be laid on top of Confluence's already powerful content management. As we see here, this is a Confluence instance running ThemePress. Your organization's brand standards and look and feel can be laid on top of any space. You can go with a full-blown implementation like you see here, or you may choose to simply use fonts and colors while folks are creating content. ThemePress for Confluence makes Confluence less intimidating for non-technical users, and we've seen it increase user adoption greatly across several different industries. So now that we've talked a little bit about Confluence and our favorite add-ons, as well as heard from Simon Gatto from Comalatech, I'm going to walk you through a use case where Precipio Consulting used all of these things together to help our client adopt Confluence. We were asked by a client that specializes in waste to implement a brand new instance of Confluence. They had many needs, and as we progressed through multiple phases of the project, we had to fulfill use cases for all of the items listed above. They wanted the departments to have their own documentation spaces. Audit needed to house their control matrix as well as prove SOX compliance internally and to external audits. They need to replace their corporate intranet because, well, it was outdated and they really didn't like their existing tool. And last but not least, they needed a way to house their standards and procedures, which needed a custom approval process, as well as be able to perpetuate the content of those standards and procedures throughout the entire Confluence instance. So based on all of the requirements and the fantastic add-ons available, we were able to fulfill all of the needs listed above and so much more. The standards and procedures templates not only was a custom template created, but once created, there was the approval process with Comala Workflows that helped that particular standard or procedure be approved. We created a series of audit templates using advanced tables for Confluence, as well as a control matrix using the multi-excerpt add-on to again help perpetuate content in multiple places. Once they implemented Jira Service Desk, not only did they have a knowledge base, but it was time for them to look at frequently asked questions and hence chose questions for Confluence. Last but not least, they needed a branded corporate intranet to share with all of their end users in order to help them adopt Confluence across the entire organization. Not only did these add-ons on top of Confluence make this organization successful, they had a 100% user adoption rate within 3 weeks of go live and had to up their license tier in order to accommodate all of the new users. So again, to review what we've covered today, the fact that Confluence is fantastic and wonderful and very powerful out of the box, but we find that our clients want a little bit more. We talked about better content formatting using advanced tables for Confluence, as well as the multi-excerpt add-on. We talked about how questions for Confluence can help you better handle your frequently asked questions. We had our lovely guest, Simon Gatto, walk us through Comala Workflows to help look at content approval as well as publishing options. We looked at ThemePress for Confluence, which can completely change the look and feel and user experience of Confluence itself. Last but not least, we heard about a specific use case where, combined with Confluence, all of these add-ons came together to complete a robust client and end user experience. Now, with that being said, what we'd like to do is, Evan, I'm going to turn it over to you, and why don't we go ahead and start with some questions?
All right, thanks for that, Amanda. And remember, if you've got a question, you can use the GoToWebinar control panel. There's a questions section. You can type that in and we'll queue those up. And we've already got a few good ones here going. So let's go ahead and get started. The first one, somebody asks, we've got about a dozen add-ons on our Confluence instance, and it seems like each license expires at just the wrong time. So is there any way to get a notification before the license expires?
Yeah, absolutely. There definitely is. Thank you for that question, Evan. There's this concept out there that we offer. It's called co-terming. So essentially what we would do is go ahead and take a look at and evaluate your licenses, and then essentially get them to all expire at the exact same time, either with the Confluence application itself or just the package of add-ons that you're working with at any given time.
Great. All right, this next question, somebody's asking about, how do I know if an add-on will work in my Confluence instance before I download it? I don't want to, download a random add-on and, then break something. Is there a way to check that?
Right. So, of course, without downloading and working with it, there may be some problems with the functionality. It also depends on which version you're doing and everything like that. Typically, the things that we look for in add-ons is we look for the number of reviews, we look at the number of the number of downloads, we look at when it was, whether or not it's supported, and whether or not it's Atlassian verified. So all of those things together, if they have high ratings on all of those, can tell you whether or not that add-on is probably going to work for your instance.
Okay, great. And then kind of a final in this series here, somebody's asking about the best way to find new add-ons worth using.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So if you remember from the previous slides in the webinar, I went ahead and sort of did a couple of different demonstrations of how to search for add-ons. So you can just go to the marketplace, you can enter in some text searches, but of course, you could always ask your friendly Atlassian Platinum Enterprise expert for some advice as well.
Yeah, always happy to help in that area. All right, here's another good one. Somebody's asking about sharing passwords, and they say, we actually share our passwords by storing them in Confluence pages. Is there a better way?
Yeah, absolutely. So, although you're probably really excellent and very familiar with the possibilities of page permissions, of course, you don't want to store anything on the internet in clear text. So, shameless plug, Secure Content for Confluence. It's an add-on that we've developed here at Percipio Consulting that goes ahead and actually stores and encrypts whatever you'd like to. It doesn't have to be just passwords. It can be customer information. It can be whatever you need to actually fully encrypt in the database as well as in the pages themselves.
Yeah, very useful. We use that a lot internally for a lot of different use cases. So, okay, this next one, who can install add-ons on my Confluence instance? Can a space admin do it? Or do you have to be like a system admin?
Yeah, you do actually have to be a full Confluence admin. Now, there is a lot of tunability with a lot of the different add-ons at the space level. So you have the ability at the space level to use some of the pieces of the functionality, but just to get it into the instance itself, you do have to be a Confluence system admin.
All right, and somebody here kind of in distress to say, help, I've installed an add-on, but I can't find the settings for the add-on. So I know it's there, but I can't find a place to configure the add-on. Do you know where I do that within Confluence?
Right. Okay. So typically there's the find a new add-on menu, and then there's also the manage add-ons menu. Getting into that manage add-ons menu will then give you the left side navigation of all the various and sundry pieces of the add-on itself. So if you're confused or you can't find it, just go to admin, go to add-ons, and that should dump you right into the manage add-ons place. Now, there could have also been some other underlying issue, but without knowing the process steps, typically it's just under that manage add-ons menu.
Okay, here's somebody asking about a specific, I guess, sorting through the options. They're saying there's a bunch of add-ons in the marketplace that claim that they add Excel functionality. So do you have any idea for how I could figure out which one is the best one? So maybe if we could, answer that concretely here, explicitly with this question, and then maybe generally, how do we find the best add-ons in the case that, there are multiple options?
Right. So again, it comes down to looking at the ratings, right? So you want to take a look at the ratings and the user reviews. You also want to take a look at the download count. You want to take a look at whether or not it's supported, whether or not it's Atlassian verified. All of those things will point you in the direction of these particular the better ones that are typically more robust in terms of the functionality, as well as tend to be a little bit more stable. We'll just throw that out there. In terms of the best ones that are out there, I don't have a specific one that I recommend. Evan, do you have a specific one that you've liked in the past or anything?
I don't with that particular Excel functionality. Yeah, sorry.
I kind of feel like we do everything that we need to with without it, right?
Yeah, I think so. We're proponents here of we use EasyBI, which isn't Excel functionality, but it allows us to have a lot of different views and chop data up in different ways. We can then export that to Excel in the event that we need to do some manipulation of that application. But yeah, I just don't think we've really seen a lot of need for it.
Yeah. Well, and there's also like native out-of-the-box add-ons, things like macros, like the charting macro, which allows you to run some data and turn them into pretty charts and those kinds of things. So, if you need to look for it, again, look for the ratings, the reviews, the whether or not it's supported and whether or not it's Atlassian verified for that specific thing.
Yeah, that's a great criteria. All right, here's another specific question around a particular application. Can you recommend a Confluence integration for Google Drive?
Right. So there's a lot of stuff out there where folks are like, I want to be able to do this, and I'd like concurrent editing, or we keep a lot of our information in Google Drive. So it turns out there's actually an add-on by App Fusions that will allow you to connect Confluence to Google Drive. And it's not just like a web link embedment. I think that it actually has more functionality in it. So if you've got a chance, just search real quick for App Fusions on the marketplace, and that should pop right up for you.
Cool. Here's one from a recent new friend. Somebody's saying, I was recently at Momentum and met you guys, and I heard a little about your upcoming marketplace add-on, DocuSign for Confluence. So can you tell me more about that?
Right, absolutely. So again, a little bit of a shameless plug here. Currently, right now, we're about to release on the marketplace a free beta, and it's DocuSign for Confluence. So essentially, what you can do is export Confluence pages into DocuSign envelopes, send those to somebody for them to be officially signed. It goes ahead and still retains all the version history and tracking and everything like that. So pretty much the way we like to put it, it's everything you love about DocuSign and everything you love about Confluence brought into one awesome add-on. So again, we're going to have our beta on the next few weeks. That's going to be released on the marketplace. And because it's a beta, it's going to be free. So definitely go and download it. Give us some feedback. We love that. Please, please, please let us know what we can do better.
Awesome. Yeah, good recommendation. Okay, well, that's all the time that we have for questions. Thanks, everybody, again, for asking some good ones. If you asked something, or maybe we didn't get to something, or you're always welcome to email us at contact@percipio.com, and I'll try and email people that have specifically asked something that maybe we didn't get a chance to answer. All right, our next webinar is the final in our Atlassian Add On series, with which we're using the term add-on a little bit loosely. Probably more accurate to say that this is one of the most talked about integrations for the Atlassian suite. That is Docker. So on June 15th, our own Brendan Kelly will cover this hot new topic by showing us how Docker can be leveraged with Bamboo to expedite code deployment with ease. So be sure to register for this one either on our website or through the email that you'll get with the recording of today's webinar. And you too can learn how Docker with Bamboo can be used to revolutionize teams from deployment to, yes, even sales, which is something we're doing here. Very exciting. So again, you'll get a link to register for that webinar in the email you'll receive after this webinar. All right, everybody, thank you so much again for joining us this morning. As always, if something in this webinar piqued your interest and you want to hear more about how our Percipio Consulting expert team can get you improved processes and awesome software, feel free to email us at contact@percipio.com, or you can visit us on our website, percipio.com. We have a form there you can fill out. We would love to talk to you about how we can help. So thanks again, everyone. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.